Hello, it's Jennifer McGuire for Studio Calico. In this month's technique video, I'm going to show you how to create some misted flowers. It's a little bit similar to a video I did a long time ago for Studio Calico, but this trim that I'll be using is perfect for this technique. And they have it in the February kit, and I'm also going to be using some things from the add-ons too. So this is the mistable trim. It's from Pink Paisley and it's part of the February kit, and I absolutely love this product. I've done these misted flowers before, and so I was thrilled that it was part of this kit because this product goes really well with all the papers and other doodads that are a part of the kit. So anyways, it has the 3 different sizes, and I'm just going to open them up and we're going to color these. Now there's many ways you can color them. You can use all different kinds of inks, but definitely the fastest way is to use your Mr. Huey's. So I'm just going to spray it on. I'm working on a Ranger craft sheet, which makes cleanup easy, but you can do it in a box, whatever you want. But I like this surface because it's smooth, and I can move the trim back and forth and quickly and easily pick up all of that color. So you can see how this is quickly and easily coming together, and you can use up all of it and not waste as much of the Mr. Huey's that you spray on it. So I just let it dry, and I'm going to do some green here, and this is for a bigger flower, a blue one. And after I did it, it looks a little too green, so I'm going in with my favorite of all the Mr. Huey's colors, which is the Heirloom Blue. I'm going to add some here and kind of give it a tie-dye effect. It'll be much more subtle when we turn it into a flower, but it really adds some interest. And then finally I'm going to use this Overdue color. It's a great color too. It's a bright red, and add color to the other piece of the small trim. Now, you could, if you're really impatient like me, you could heat this up with your heat gun and make it dry faster, or you can just let it dry on its own. It'll dry pretty quick anyways. And then I'm just going to take a small piece of the trim and turn it green, and I'm using this as the leaves for the flowers later on. So you don't really need a whole lot with the green, but I'm using this straight estate green Mr. Huey's. Now after these have all dried, it's time to cut up, and you'll see how this trim, this fabric trim, looks really cool when it's dry after being colored. It just really has a great fabric-y look. And I'm just cutting little pieces of this out to turn into leaves. They don't have to be perfect because you'll see they're tucked behind the flowers. So now let's go ahead and do the flowers here. I'm going to take some double-sided tape. This is really narrow double-sided tape. You can use Wonder Tape or American Crafts double-sided tape or score tape. There's a lot of different options, but I'm putting it on the very bottom edge. The more narrow your tape is, the better it is. If you have wider tape, you could always cut it thin down the center. But I'm going to put this all along the bottom edge of the trim. You may save a little tape by doing little pieces of it here and there, but you'll definitely get better results if you just cover it all with tape. Now I'm going to go put little notches in here, just cut it all the way down to the tape. All of these little zigzags, I'm going to cut all the way down to the tape. This will keep my flower from ending up being too tall, and it will help it to lay out nice and flat. I probably should have done this before I took off the release paper off that double-sided tape, so it's sticking to my fingers, but I had forgotten to do it. So you don't have to do this part where you put these little notches in, but it really makes your flower kind of flatten out much nicer. So now I've got all those cut, and I'm going to start rolling. You can either roll with the tape on the inside or the outside. It really doesn't matter. And I'm not rolling too tight. I'm kind of keeping it loose so that I end up with a bigger flower. And it also helps in spreading the petals when we're done. So you just keep rolling and you start to get this tassel looking thing. I showed you in an old video how to do this with paper, but these mistable trims are even better. So I'm just going to keep rolling here. Before you know it, you'll see that your piece is starting to kind of look like a rosebud. You can do little fold overs here so you can make it even more full when you're done, but by having that tape in there, it all holds together quite nicely. So when you're done, you just give it a little trim here, and then you just pull it apart with your fingers. And you'll be surprised how easily it just kind of pops into a rose. You don't have to spend time making it look perfect. It just gives you this really nice kind of grungy but bright looking flower. Now you could have misted this afterwards, but I find doing it first gives a more uniform color. And then I took my little bit that I had left and I did one tiny little rosebud to go with it. So you can really get a lot out of this one package. And then all of these colors will match nicely with the papers that are in the package too. Now with the bigger trim, I wanted a bigger flower. So I'm actually starting by wrapping around this tool first. You can use a pencil or anything. But just so there's a little opening in the center of the flower, and this will result in a wider flower and kind of make it easier for it to unfold. So I'm just going to keep wrapping around this, and then I'll just let that tool fall out. I just need it to get started. Now you can see how kind of tie-dyed this turned out because I used 2 different colors of Mr. Huey's. It's kind of subtle, but it really looks nice in real life. It really gives a hand-dyed look to it. And that would be kind of hard to achieve with inks, but you could use inks for this process too. So I'm just going to start pulling this apart, and that tape will hold it well inside, and you'll see this turns into a really nice flower also. Now, if you want to make sure that this stays secure and when you're done with your final project, you can squirt some glossy accents or any kind of strong adhesive in between all those little cracks to keep it there. Now I wanted to show you how I pulled this all together into a card, and I'm going to show you a fun trick that I love to do, and it's using a clear set for a background. So you see all these backgrounds here that are the alphabets. I actually used the whole stamp set to do this very quickly. This is a stamp set that's in one of the add-ons for February, and I love, love, love this stamp set from Studio Calico, and it's exclusive to one of the add-ons. Now I'm using the Frost White Color Box pigment ink. It's my favorite of all the white inks, and I'm just going to ink up this background. You could use Versamark here too for a more subtle look. But I'm just leaving the whole stamp set as is on the stamp sheet, and I'm going to use it as if it were just one giant background stamp. This is a great way to use alphabet stamps. So I'm just going to lay some craft paper on here and press around, and if you watch, I'll keep one hand still while the other one moves around. Now you could try to pick up this set and stamp it onto the paper, but I think that would be much harder. So I'm just going to press this around. Now this ink will be wet for a while, so I want to heat set that or let it dry. But there you go, you have a whole background from an alphabet set. Now I wanted to show you how I do the placement of letter stamps, just a quick trick, so that I could create these little love ya messages. Now I could go through and take each letter off and just stamp my greeting as I go, which is what I do most of the time, I would say. But lately I've gotten into where I want to make like 3 or 4 of the same kind of cards just so I have them on hand. So I wouldn't want to do this 3 or 4 times by going through and adding each letter separately. So you could do it this way, or you could do it this faster way. I take just a piece of plastic from some packaging, and I start laying my letters out how I want them to be when I'm done. You could put this over your card so you can get the sizing and positioning just right. Because it's see-through, it's really easy to do. But because I'm putting this on plastic, it's kind of holding the letters in place and keeping them from moving. If I did it on paper, they would kind of move around a lot, but it's kind of sticking to this plastic. So once I have them arranged on here, I could lay this clear piece over my card to make sure I like how it's all positioned. But all you have to do is press your block right to it, and it transfers the letters right to the block, and there you go. You have it positioned. You can stamp it over and over again for as many cards as you need. So there you have it. I just stamped it on some paper that came in my kit. Now I'm going to start arranging my roses on here. Now I just put them on with a few glue dots, but then I go back and I squirt glossy accents under it or a strong adhesive to make sure it stays put when it goes through the mail or on a package. So now I have these little pieces for the leaves. You can see I don't really care so much about how they're shaped because they're just going to peek out a little bit. And this has kind of got a grungy feel to it anyways. So I'm just going to tuck some little pieces of the green under there. And you can see that tape's holding pretty well, so I don't have to worry about these falling apart. Then I went ahead and I added some buttons. These buttons were part of the kit also with some string. And after I did it, I felt like it needed a little softening, so I'm going in with my corner chomper just to add some rounded corners there. Now you'll notice when I stamped Love Ya, I didn't stamp completely. This is one of the joys of stamping with black. You can go in with a black pen and fill it in. That's why I often use black for my greetings, so that if I booger it up, I can just fix it with a black pen. It's just a great way to cheat and make your crafting a lot easier. Next, I just wanted to show you how I did these buttons. I've shown you in videos before, but I'll show you again. I fold my string in half and I weave it right through the buttons. So I go from the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom, and then I've got this little loop here. So I'll open this loop, pull the ends of the string through it, and there it's looped through, and then you don't have as much bulk behind the back of the ribbon. So I'm just going to put a glue dot on there and then cut off the extra string. So this gives it helps it to lay down flatter, and you don't have to stitch it on. And I'll go back in with glossy accents and squirt it under to make sure it stays put. So there are my final cards using these misted flowers. If you have any questions, be sure to visit studiocalico.com. Thanks for watching.